Hello and welcome back to Hive Prometheus. I wanted to go ahead and jump right into reviewing a newer tier list now that we're post Dataslate. Some of the things I anticipated would change and some things that I didn't. So I just wanted to go through and do a quick and dirty update. I'm backlogged on a few videos, so I thought I would just go ahead and try to start pumping out some of the easier ones into smaller bite-sized videos below 5 or 10 minutes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in, and I'll just get to the tier list and some of the reasoning for why I put the units there. Okay, so if you were here for my last tier list, you'll notice that a lot of things are in very similar places. I did shift some things around just based off of the conjecture that we thought that we were losing the ability to be able to score secondary points using units that are 0C, such as the Spore Mine and Rippers. Going forward, I do think that a Biovore, Death Leaper, and at least 1 or 2 Neuroleapers still goes into every list. At lower point values, you probably don't bring Neurolictors because the +1 to wound isn't as important. The only points changes that we really saw was +10 to Death Leaper, +15 to Neurolictor. It's still a must-take for Tyrannids. We did get +5 for Gargoyles, but they're one of our better battle line, and their ability is still so good. You still bring at least 1 or 2 in every list, in my opinion. Exocrines and Maleceptors are still very good, very solid. Neurotyrant for the -1 on the Battle Shock checks. Rippers, cheap 20-point 40 mil bases that you can deep strike and score easy primaries. Deploy Teleport Homers, Investigate Signals. Broodlord and Gene Stealers both went down 10 each. 10 for the Broodlord, then 10 for each squad of 5. So that's down 30 points for the full squad of 10 and the Broodlord, down from 260 to 230. Very good. Tyranid has now moved up to A tier. It's probably bordering on an A minus just because it went from 245 back to 190. You're seeing 1 or 2 of them now in some more serious lists. Haruspex is still very point efficient at 125. He and Exocrine we kind of anticipated might go up 5 each, but we seem to have avoided that being at about a 45% win rate or so with GW's metrics. Pyrovore is still a great tech piece to take away cover, unless you're playing him in Assimilation Swarm, and then having multiple of him as a Harvester unit is very good. Going down, Moloch, I think I've used him a whole lot now in Crusher Stampede and Vanguard, and he's just so good for what he is. He's a cheap toughness 10 body. He's got a bunch of attacks. He's got 1 attack that's extra attacks after the fact that does dev wounds to infantry to try to snipe out characters. He's great. I love him. Being able to mortal wound bomb a tough enemy and then go in and try to slice and dice with Gene Stealers or another unit has been super choice. Screamer Killers are up much higher now. They were in low B before, and now they're in high B just because their points went down from 170 to 145. So now being able to proc those battle shocks in -1 using the Scream has been very nice. The Walking Hive Tyrant has moved down from A tier to B just because he's not very usable. He's only good in about 1.5 detachments, Invasion Fleet, and probably Synaptic Nexus. Norn essentially stayed exactly where it is. Even with the points decreases to him, he's still very niche, and you only bring him really defensively in Synaptic Nexus. Lictors are still 60 points. They're great. Von Ryan Sleepers are a little lower, but they came up in value just because of the change of the wording for being able to use Infiltrate with the redeploy in Vanguard. Old One Eye and the Carnifexes, I think I've been sleeping on. They're a little bit higher. Their damage potential is good. Their points are just a little high. And then going down from there, I'm not going to explain everything outright. I'll just say what it is in order. Raveners, Flying Hive Tyrant, Trigon, Wing Tyranid Prime. We got the Warriors with the melee weapons here. Termagants, Norn Emissary, Zoanthropes I put lower because their damage output is just anemic for the points, still at 110. Hormigants, the Toxicrin, I now put up in B because he went to 150 points. You can run him in Crusher Stampede. He will be shot at, that's okay, but he takes pressure away from the other more efficient T10 plus bodies, the Exocrine, the Maleceptor, the Haruspex, and the Tyranid. All 5 of those I have in a Crusher Stampede list. I will be doing a review of Crusher Stampede and a couple battle reports in a video after this. I just wanted to make a separate video for this. Venonthropes are still niche and good for giving either cover to monsters or -1 to hit. Stealth bonus to little bugs. Unending Swarm is doing very well right now. The rest of the stuff in C and lower essentially has not moved very much. I've shuffled a couple units, but it's not really explaining why. There were no point changes, if any, to the units down there, and I already gave my reasoning, I believe, in my other tier list video for why they're all down there. Again, I'll go into more in-depth detail with a review for Crusher Stampede. I've been running them for the last 5 or 6 games or so. I've got some pretty good mileage with them now, and I've used a multitude of units that I think are cheap and efficient in that detachment now, whereas a lot of people shied away from it because our monsters either capped out at strength 9 or 10 for shooting and melee. The Norns were too expensive, and we didn't have an anti-tank tech piece like the Tyranid at efficient enough points. Now that he's dropped to 190, the detachment feels great. But I can only attest to that now. I'll have to tell you about it later. But I should be pumping out that video very shortly here, so I'll hope to see you back here on Hive Prometheus.